If you have felt the dark of night, questioning what is out of sight, He is the answer, He is the light. If you have felt the weight of sin, bound by the shame that's held you in, He'll break your chains, He will forgive. So lift your head. Morning is coming, there's more to your story. Don't forget. In grief and in glory, still great is His faithfulness. If you've been broken and betrayed, no one to trust, alone, afraid, He'll comfort you, 'cause He knows your name. If you've wrestled with the ache of loss, why this has been your road to walk, He bore your pain, He wore your cross. So lift your head. Morning is coming, there's more to your story. Don't forget. In grief and in glory, still great is His faithfulness. He is faithful. He's my present helper. He's my keeper. Oh, great is His faithfulness. He's perfect. He's sovereign. Great is His faithfulness. He's my Father, my comfort. Great is His faithfulness. He's my Redeemer, my restorer, my sustainer. Great is His faithfulness. Wait on Him, rest in Him. Come find your peace again. Trust in Him, hope in Him. Great is His faithfulness. Wait on Him. Trust in Him. Great is His faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. Lift your head. Morning is coming, there's more to your story. Don't forget. In grief and in glory, still great is His faithfulness. Morning is coming, there's more to your story. Don't forget. In grief and in glory, still great is His faithfulness. He's faithful. In grief and in glory, still great is His faithfulness. He's so faithful. In grief and in glory, still great is His faithfulness.
Matthew chapter 25, beginning with verse 31. I'll read this to you. It says, "When the Son of Man comes in His glory and all the angels with Him, He will sit on His throne in heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered before Him, and He will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me.' Then the righteous will answer him, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?' The king will reply, 'I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me.' Then he will say to those on his left, 'Depart from me, you who are accursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me.' They also answered him, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and did not help you?' He replied, 'I tell you the truth. Whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me.' Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life." I don't know about you, but it seems like these days there's a lot of talk about the second coming of Christ. Like Christ could come any day. And they point to different things that are going on in the world. They point to Israel. They point to the wars. They point to just people's attitude. There are a lot of things that they point to and say, "Oh, these are all signs that Jesus is coming soon." And I'm not going to argue that. That's very possibly true. But with this whole idea comes, it seems like fear. I'm glad, Sharon, you talked about fear. It's like people are becoming more fearful that Christ is going to return, you know? And I don't think we should be afraid of his coming. When my parents tell me they're coming over, I don't get afraid, right? I know them. How is it different with my Heavenly Father? He's going to come and get me. He's going to pick me up and take me there. I shouldn't be afraid. And so I don't want us to get caught up in fear. We need to fix our eyes on Jesus. And fix our eyes on Jesus because he's the one who cares for you. He cares for you. Fix your eyes on Jesus because he understands you. He understands what you're going through. He understands your past. He understands your circumstances. He understands. Fix your eyes on Jesus because he wants to help you. Fix your eyes on Jesus because he's our Savior. He came to save us and also then to give us eternal life. He isn't sitting in heaven going, "Oh my goodness, these people are born now. What am I going to do? We're coming to the end of the time. I don't think they're ready yet." You know, he doesn't worry about that because he's active in our lives, preparing us for the next thing that's going to happen. But we need to keep our focus on him. And so when we think about his coming back, he promised that he's going to come back for us. In John chapter 14, verse 3, it says, "And if you go and prepare a place for you," so he said, "If I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you may be where I am." So that's a promise. He is left to prepare a place. And it's interesting from this Matthew passage, it even says that Jesus said that he welcomes them in verse 34. "Then the king will say to those on his right hand, 'Come, you are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. What's amazing is he's up there in heaven going, oh, you did another good work. Let me add another room. Or, oh, you did another work. I think I'm going to upgrade your mansion. You know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. Our inheritance, our eternal home was prepared for us before he created the world. He was thinking about, oh man, I'm going to create this place for these people who will be faithful to me. It seems like that's what he's saying here. Since the creation of the world, we have our mansion built. Sometimes you get the idea that he's there building a mansion now. No, it seems like it's already done. He's just waiting for us to come. He's coming back to take us, so we'll be able to live there. So anyway, the invitation, he's coming back. But when he comes back, I mean, there are a few things that are going to happen, but at some point, there's going to be a judgment. There's going to be the sorting. You know, you guys like to sort things, right? Every week you probably sort things, like your socks, the white from the dark, right? We're getting ready to plant the garden, and so we make sure our seeds are sorted. Last year we had an experience where we got seeds, and we planted them in the ground, and we got surprised. We got purple potatoes and peppers that were so hot that birds wouldn't even come close to the garden because they would just melt their feathers off. I mean, and we were supposed to eat these things. And then I found out the seeds came actually from China. And it's like, oh, somebody's playing a prank on me. Okay, so sorting things. You want to sort things well. If it says, gardening again, if it says it's a pepper and it's supposed to be a green bell, it's not supposed to be hot. You look forward to that, but if you get something different, you get very excited, except for my wife. She said, oh, it's just fun to go to the garden because I never know what I'm going to get. You know what I mean? It's like we had purple or colored carrots. We had yellow carrots and, not orange, yellow. And everything was like crazy last year. But sorting, we love to sort things. And there's coming a day when God, it says here, is going to gather all the nations together. He's going to bring the nations to him. We're not going to go, he's not going to come to us nation by nation. He's going to gather all the peoples of the world together. And he's going to sort them out. So when we think about that, it's like, wow, what is he going to sort out? And it says here, there will be a sorting. Matthew 25, verse 32, it says, he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. So when we get to this point in judgment, there'll basically be three categories of people, okay? I just thought I'd throw this out. It does say he's going to separate the sheep from the goats, and so that's two categories. Well, how do you get three categories? Well, here's how you get three categories, okay? The first category will be those who truly believe in Jesus. That's not category number one, okay? So they would truly be the sheep. But then you have category number two, which is those who claimed to be Christian, those who claimed to be sheep, but really weren't. You know, which is interesting because there's so many people today that will put on the Christian, I'm a Christian. And they'll go out and they'll do their best to live a Christian, but they'll never really truly give themselves to Christ. And so they're doing everything for what they can get out of it, kind of thing. It's a salvation maybe by works. But you can't fake it when it's time for judgment. Jesus is going to know those who totally surrendered to him and those who were doing it for other reasons. And so there's that category. And the sad thing is there are people in the church that we come and we rub shoulders with and we do stuff with, and they truly yet are not, have not surrendered. And so there's that category. And it's interesting because they look like sheep, they do sheep activities, but truly have never surrendered their heart to the Lord. And then that's the third category, those who have never and professed that Jesus was their Lord. They never pretended to be a Christian. They had no interest in it. So basically there's three categories, and the sad thing is the three categories is going to come down to two categories. It's going to come down to the real sheep and then what Jesus calls the goats. Okay? And so I want us to be clear when we think about sheep, because one of the big things about sheep is Jesus said that my sheep will hear my voice. They will listen to my voice, and they will follow me. Okay? And so it's really interesting, and I've never raised sheep. Grew up on a farm. Dad had sheep before I was born, but when I came around, by the time I came around, he got rid of his sheep. We didn't have sheep. The only thing that I knew about the sheep was we had sheep wire in some of our fences where they used to graze the sheep. And they'd always say how the sheep would always crawl under or crawl through. They were never in the pen anyway, so he just let the neighbors have all of them anyway. So there were no sheep. But the thing that I heard about sheep is this. So when the shepherds, like in the Middle East or where they actually herd their sheep, the shepherds will actually come to the watering hole all at the same time in the morning or cool of the day. They'll just come in. All these flocks, different flocks of sheep will come together, right? And they'll be mingling together, and they'll be drinking the water together, and they're just all mingling. Well, then when Shepherd Joe, he goes and leaves, Shepherd Joe will come to he'll step off a ways, and then he will begin to call his sheep. And his sheep will know his voice. And they know Joe's a good shepherd, man. I'm going to go with Joe. I know his voice. And so those sheep will go with Joe. And then Sam comes along and says, hey, guys, it's time to leave. And he'll call his sheep. And then his herd goes with him. The sheep know the shepherd's voice. And they follow the shepherd. And so it's so important. If you want to check yourself today and say, am I really a follower of Jesus? Let me ask you this. Are you listening for his voice? Have you heard his voice? Are you following his voice? A lot of voices in the world. But do you know his voice, the shepherd's voice? And are you following it? And so on that day, when Jesus speaks, there are those who have followed his voice. This voice is just like almost soothing. Even though at this point he's the judge, they know he's a good judge, and that they know what he's done for them in their life, and so they're not afraid. And his sheep then will know his voice, and they will follow him, and he will call them out. But then there will be some sheep that are going to, they think they're sheep. They're going to kind of try to move. It's like, oh, I'm a sheep, and he's going to call them out and say, no, I don't know you. What a horrible time for that to be revealed. What? And so here's another thing about how we know that we're following the shepherd. Because what does Jesus say? He says, when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. And the sheep, the true sheep, are going to go, when did I see you, Jesus? When did I go in the hospital and say, I'm here to see Jesus? Or when did I go to the prison and say, I'm here to see Jesus? Or when did I drive down the road and I looked over and, there's Jesus. I'm going to pick him up. Hey, get in, Jesus. You need a ride? I don't remember. Jesus, I don't remember. You're going to have to refresh my memory. And Jesus will say, well, when you did it to the least of these, and he says brothers. And so some of the reading I've done this past week was kind of surprising because it says brothers. And so when you do it, I don't want to say especially to those who are believers. When we're believers, we're all brothers and sisters in Christ. But I think it also goes beyond that. And just to anyone who's in need. Jesus said, who's your neighbor? It's anyone who's in need. Yesterday we had this one gal, she came and she was talking to us, and She made a friend who wasn't a believer. And she really okay, I'm going to prioritize this relationship. I'm going to invest a lot in this relationship because I want this person to come to Jesus. And one time they met up together, and when they were meeting, this lady was trying to influence this other lady to become Christian. And this lady who needed the influence, right? She looks at her Christian friend, and she says to her Christian friend, she goes, I just don't want to be your project. Isn't that an interesting statement? Because she saw through everything this lady was trying to do. As you're my friend because you want me to be a Christian. You're my friend so you can go back and tell somebody, hey, I just led someone to the Lord. And it wasn't really authentic. I mean, the world can see it. Maybe through judgment. I don't know how it gets through, but they can see it. And so I've been thinking about this passage, and I've been thinking if we could just, when we drive by that person that we're driving along and there's a person walking, if we could just see Jesus' face on them. We have all kinds of filters, right? On our phones, you can put funny face filters on. You have all kinds of filters. You guys have all seen a filter, right? Okay, 2 of you. So for the 2 of us who have seen these filters, you can put all these. So maybe we need to put a filter on. Just say, Lord, help me to put a filter on. That when I see someone in need, instead of seeing their face, I see Jesus' face. Because I would definitely do it for Jesus. And I don't know if I'd do it for the homeless guy who's standing in the corner saying, whatever he's saying on his cardboard sign. It's like, get a job. That's what I want to say. But if I saw that was Jesus' face, I might think differently. And that's how he's going to sort the people. Now, I want you to know and be clear that we're not saved by our works, okay? It's not like, oh man, if I do enough good things, then I'm going to be saved by what I do. And we know that the people that Jesus, they were truly sheep. We know that Jesus, they weren't thinking they were going to get saved by the works because they said, Jesus, when did we see you? And, we did these things. Yeah, we're not going to deny it, but when did we see you? When did we do it for you? And he said, when you've done it to least of these. You know what they didn't bring to Jesus? Their list of things. Oh, Jesus, look at, man, we helped at the soup kitchen, and we gave $1,000 to that homeless shelter. And we did, look at our list, Jesus. You know what I mean? They were just doing it to do it because they love Jesus and they love people. They didn't keep a list, because if they were going to get to heaven by their good deeds, they would have had a list. And they would have expected for Jesus to go through the list and say, oh, yeah, you've done so good. We're going to add on to your mansion. No. It was like, what? You noticed that? You saw that? When did we do that for you, Jesus? And we have to remember that when we do it for the least of these, and we don't do it so we can gain a crown, because how are we saved? We're saved by what Jesus did for us on the cross. So we don't have to worry about working to get saved. We just have to worry about being Christ to the world so they can get saved. So, sorting. There's the sorting that goes on, and the sorting that says, you're going to sort the sheep out. He calls the sheep out. And he puts them on his right hand, which is his right hand, my right hand. And one of the things it talks about in the idea of the right hand is that's the place of favor. And so come, you're favored because of what you've done. I mean, Jesus gave his life for us, but then in return, we gave our life back to him in service, caring for people, just meeting, and it doesn't have anything that's very complicated. A cup of cold water, a piece of bread, a visit. I mean, they're just simple things that we need to just do every day. In our day, it could be a phone call, or it could be a card, or it could be a Facebook message. I mean, it's gotten so easy. We don't even have to leave our house, and we can write some encouraging words, personal message somebody, write a personal note, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. How's it going? How's your faith? And just click and send, It's so easy, and yet we are so busy. It's not complicated, but we want to do it because we care about people like Jesus cared about us. And so those are the sheep, and those will go on his right hand. And then he talks about separating the goats, okay? And the goats, goats aren't so bad. I mean, I've never raised goats either. But it's funny. Anyway, I was thinking about making the sounds of a sheep and a goat. Do you guys know a sound of a sheep? Can you make a sheep sound? Yeah, there you go. Good job. Can you make a goat sound? Yeah, it's different. It's almost, and I heard someone say the goat sound almost sounds like me, like they're saying me, like they're selfish. I didn't think about that until I read that, and I haven't had the chance to go out and listen to some goats and say, oh yeah, you do say me, and that sounds selfish. You know what I mean? But the point of the thing is that the sheep were like concerned about others, and the goats were more concerned about me and what I'm doing, and maybe I can take my good works and show Jesus someday, and it's going to add to my crown and my mansion, and you know what I mean? And it's very. When I think of bad goats, what I think of is a billy goat that's running against you and, bumping you down, trying to knock you over, head-butting you. I think about that. But it was actually, Mardell pointed this out to me when she was reading the passage to me. She said, these people were also visiting. They were also doing things, but they weren't doing them for Jesus. And then what the other thing is, and possibly, it was like, oh, Jesus, if we would have seen you, we would have ran to do it for you. But not these people. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the difference between the sheep and the goats, is the motivation why they did it. And also then you get to thinking about this. How many times has Jesus, his voice, he has spoken to us as like, I want you to do something for that person. Whether it's maybe a person you're driving down the road, it's like, stop and pick them up. Oh no, Lord, do you know my schedule today? I'm late already. And we just drive by. And so some of this could be just the sin of omission. Of like, he's calling us to do something, but we just blow him off. It's like, no, me. I'm a goat today. And so, I mean, we gotta be interested in this, because the sheep and the goats. What I read about the goats this week that was kind of interesting. The sheep, have wool, and they got their own coat, basically, and they can be out at night, and they don't mind being out at night. But goats, I guess, this is what I read, and if you're a goat expert, let me know if this is true or not. But I read that goats like to come in at night. They're cold. They don't want to be outside. And so you bring the goats in at night, and you keep them warm. And the sheep, you don't have to do that, to them. And again, it's interesting. When I think of goats, I always think of the mean goat. You know what I mean? They're not all mean, but they may be a little selfish. Go back to the me. And so we have to check our hearts. We have to examine our hearts. We have to put up a mirror and look into our heart and say, okay, what comes back? A nice little lamb face? Or a little goat face? Is it all about me? Or am I doing it out of love for Christ and for others? Interesting thing, this whole thing about, Jesus said, when you've done it to the least of these, you've done it unto me. It's like, put Jesus' face on every person, get that filter. Well, there was a guy who actually was a king And he did this. King Abdullah, the ruler of Jordan, and he's been the ruler of Jordan since 1999, has been known to disguise himself and go out into public places. His purpose is to talk with ordinary people and find out what they are thinking, and to check up on civil servants to see how they are treating his people. He has visited hospitals and government offices to learn what kind of service they are giving. I wish he'd come to our post office. Anyways. The king got the idea while in New York City. In New York City, he couldn't leave his hotel without being mobbed. So he slipped out in disguise. It worked. So he tried it at home. He reported that once this practice was begun, civil servants and hospital employees started treating everyone like kings. And that's the point. Jesus is saying, if you knew you were doing it to Jesus, you would probably treat him differently. And so as we go out into the world, let's treat everyone like they are Jesus, like we're ministering to Jesus. And how will our ministry be different? If you've done it to the least of these, you've done it unto him.
There is no